Today I am going to be answering commonly asked questions about Montessori. We'll also be addressing some Montessori myths. There will be a little bit of Q&A to discover. Hello everyone. My name is Ellie Now. I am a certified Montessori infant toddler teacher. I am also a certified birth and postpartum doula. I am a mother of 5 Montessori-schooled children. I am also a deep advocate for a holistic lifestyle. All right, question number 1 is, what is Montessori education and why is it called that? Montessori education is based off of the person who created the method of this education. Her name is Maria Montessori. Maria Montessori was the first female doctor ever from the country of Italy, and her path actually began with children who were neurodivergent or with exceptionalities. As she studied these children, she was able to observe them and see things that the child might be interested in based off of observations. Since her doctor profile had already given her a scientific edge towards being able to study children and observe their behaviors to see what education would best serve them. 1896, she was the first female doctor. She did have a lot of criticism. At the time, it was not an accepted belief that women were equal in work ethic or pay or any of that as men were. So there was already adversity from the start. It was actually not on purpose that she was placed in the initial work that she took on. It was the only job that she was able to take at the time that allowed her to practice her methodology of education. Montessori also created purposeful materials to have children work with concrete objects. So there was this understanding that children using natural objects to manipulate with natural materials such as wood, glass, and metal were materials that would help them be more grounded in the concrete, that is the world that they live in and naturally interact with. Later, as they got older, they were able to be introduced to more abstract concepts and materials that they were developmentally ready for. These types of purposeful materials were stimulating them using all of their senses versus just having things on paper and having to learn from abstract. All of these types of sensorial materials were able to be used in all subjects, from language to math or science, and even in another area of the classroom that was called practical life, which was basically all of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, like washing our hands, cleaning down our environment, taking care of our plants. Question number 2, are Montessori schools religious? No, they are not religious and they do not have any spirituality in that sense. What Montessori schools do focus on is care of self, the care of their environment, and the care of their community. So there is a theme that is surrounded by a large umbrella of topics that basically encompass a holistic approach. There is also the component of the Montessori education that covers self-actualization or the whole child, which is at a certain point the child will reach this self-actualized moment where they understand that they are an integral part of their communities and of the universe and how everything functions in nature because of their approach to being helpful and knowing their place. Question number 3, what are the main differences between public conventional education and Montessori? So in Montessori, we see that the Montessori teachers are giving individual one-on-one lessons with one student at a time and are giving these lessons based off of the interest of the child or the observation of the teacher and what they think might be best suited for the child at that moment. Another thing that is a difference is children are also independent learners. So within a Montessori environment, we understand and accept the fact that they will walk around, look at things, pick things up, examine things. They will watch what other children are doing. In doing this, they are also giving insight to the teacher as to what they might be interested in and what they're attracted to, especially if it is beautiful and inviting and surrounded with all of these materials that catch the eye and the attention. Question number 4, what are some of the advantages of Montessori? One of the things that I think really stands out in Montessori is the practical life area of the classroom. So all classrooms of Montessori, from infant and toddler all the way to middle school and high school, have some sort of practical life element in their classroom. Is for the child to be able to do lessons that involve everyday activities of maintenance of their environment or of themselves. So at any given moment, they can do like food preparation, or they can be cleaning something, or they can be taking care of pets, or they can be restocking something, or seeing what the school might need, or sew something, or different materials that might help them be purposeful in their everyday lives. So Montessori classrooms, you will see teachers modeling something slowly and carefully, like sweeping or scrubbing or something, because the children are watching and they pick up on these everyday life enhancing activities that we absolutely need. Another advantage of Montessori is the type of discipline that we use. In traditional schooling, discipline might look a little bit different. There might be, harsher consequences involved, like when a child does something that's unfavorable, sometimes as the adults will say something like, "Oh no, I can't believe that happened," or like, "Why would you do something like that?" Or "You have to go sit down over here," or "Now you have this removed from you." And there's consequences usually involved in different types of discipline, depending on what scale the action fell on or anything like that. Through this method, we are basically listening for the most part on what exactly it is that happened, what is going on, or what the conflict might be, and then being able to give the child the platform to speak for themselves in their opinion, what happened. And if there's someone else that's involved, usually that person is brought in too. It is talked about. All feelings are out on the table. This might differ as far as what type of situation we're talking about, the language that might have been used, the reactions, the emotions. So all of those things, understanding that they are normal and they're part of things that happen at that developmental age. And then they're usually guided by the teacher to talk through things with giving each other turns and arriving to a conclusion or an agreement moving forward that would benefit everybody. Or if a child was working on something, you can validate that and see, "I see that you were working on this, and then this person came over and was interested in what you were working on. When they took it, you didn't like that." So there's a lot of normalization of feelings and just validating what it is that's happening. And that really does help children a lot, just to be able to be acknowledged and know that whatever it is that they're going through is something that other people see as well. And they're not just, feeling all of these big feelings just because of that. Question number 5. How does Montessori accommodate children with neurodivergent learning styles or gifted children? With this question here, I would go back to the individualized learning that the teachers do one-on-one with the children. And in Montessori, we also have sensitive periods. There are times in a child's life where they are just really inclined to learning something during that developmental stage. And sometimes they just want to do it and do it and do it until they have mastered it. And we also call that repetition leading to mastery. So this is something very normal that happens. And if there are children that have exceptionalities that they're working with, these are things that we can accommodate in our classrooms, because we are able to study the child and make adjustments as we need to. If there is additional support that needs to be provided in the classrooms, if the child can benefit from an aid or designated times for that. But the types of materials that Montessori uses alone is something that really helps children to engage all the senses and to be able to fulfill some of the needs that they might have underlying there because of their exceptionality or things that they have yet to develop and explore. In the case that a child would be gifted or needing some more resources that exist outside of that classroom, a teacher will pull resources from higher levels in order to accommodate to that child's needs. If they are requiring something more that they are not currently getting in their classroom, it is known that they can definitely have access to those materials and be brought to their classroom, or they can visit that higher level classroom from time to time to be able to seek what they need. Number 6, how is the grading system different in Montessori? So first of all, there are no report cards. This system does not exist because of the type of individualized learning and individual plans that the children get. The teacher basically fills out a profile for the child that has all of this information in it. I know that at our school and in many Montessori schools, they do develop a profile or a progress report for the child that they might meet with the parents for twice or 3 times a year, depending on the frequency, so that the parents can see basically a comprehensive layout of this progress report that is very detailed in all aspects of the child, from social emotional development to all of the core curricular subjects and topics, as well as dexterity of the body, all sorts of topics that basically encompass the whole child. So all of this information is reviewed during the parent visits. Question number 7. Do children usually transition well from Montessori to conventional? What about vice versa? We have seen in the past that children who transition out of Montessori usually do a lot better when they are going into a traditional or conventional environment, because they have had experience in Montessori that has given them self-regulating techniques and the ability to learn that care of self and care environment and care of community. And so that plays a really valuable role in them being able to go out into a different type of schooling, because they're going in with all of these resources that they have learned already. Whereas the transition of children coming into Montessori from conventional schooling is a little bit trickier, especially as they get older, but it is very appealing for children, like 9.5 out of 10 times. And so that normalization process, in which we call it, from when a student starts to when they feel comfortable in the classroom, really doesn't take that long, but it is an adjustment, especially as the child gets older. Okay, question number 8. Are Montessori classrooms mixed in age? Yes, they are mixed in age, and there is usually 3-year cycles involved in every plane of development that we see in Montessori. So we have 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and then that 9 to 12 in upper elementary, 2 years in middle school, which is 12 to 14. The reason for this is because Montessori has basically studied and shown that there are planes of development, which means there are time frames in which children are developing along the same lines, and it doesn't show that children are basically developing by the year that they are in. It is more by the curve of development that they are at, which can actually include several different ages. So that is why they are broken up like that. And so in one classroom, you can have a 3-year age range. And this is beneficial for the children, because for the younger children, they have the older children to be able to look up to and learn from, which can sometimes be more powerful than the teacher giving direct lessons or trying to get a child introduced to something maybe they have never done or might be apprehensive in doing. But then they see that older child engaged in the work and they're watching them, and that could be very powerful. And for the older children and the middle children, they might be able to have some mentorship opportunities in which they can work with some younger age groups and be able to work on enhancing their social skills, and also inviting some humility into knowing that they were once in their shoes and they could benefit from a mentor showing them the ropes. Question number 9. How old to how young can a child begin Montessori? Basically, there's this wide window of opportunity. Some schools might have different policies on when to start in certain years, and I think this gets a little bit trickier as the children get older. So most of the time, I think there is an understanding that the younger the better to start Montessori, although it's not impossible to start Montessori at any age, depending on where the child is developmentally and what the needs are in that specific situation. I'm sure that there could be something, talked about or worked out with that school, depending on what's going on. But I would think that as a whole, it is recommended for children to start a little bit younger. There are celebrities that have gone through Montessori training and schooling. Some celebrities that have gone through Montessori schooling include Jeff Bezos and the creators of Google. The benefits of sticking to it really just is that this Montessori philosophy of care of self, care of others, care of community, care of environment, that just continues more and more as they get older. And why not, right? I mean, yeah, these are like serious benefits of being able to continue something that is rich with this philosophy, and why wouldn't you want to? Number 10, is it true that Montessori encourages no imaginative play? So yes and no. Yes, imagination is accepted with the accompaniment of like real life experiences. When a child is using like grandeur imaginative play, basically they are just not feeling fulfilled with what is in their immediate environment, and they want to imagine something that is beyond what they have in front of them. So that type of imaginative play is like kind of an escape from reality. This is basically taught to us as something to recognize and to make note of, because if the child just continues imaginative play within the environment that we have, then we might need to think about what it is that the child is interacting with in the classroom, or what we don't have or might need to have in the classroom to meet this child's needs in order for them to be a little bit more grounded in the concrete and in the reality. So the imaginative play that we tend to see that coincides with Montessori is when children are like pretending to do things that they could do in real life. Like if they're working at a grocery store and they're pretending to scan fruits and vegetables and put them into a cart or a bag or something like that. Or if they are at a farm and they're playing with farm animals, or if they are doing real life jobs like postman or some sort of thing like that, would technically still fall in line, because kids are going to be immersed in imaginative play. So we need to accept that. That's just part of their development. But when it goes too much in the fantastical realm, it might give us a cue or an indicator that they're just bored and they want something that calls their attention that they can be more grounded and concrete with. Question number 11, what and how is Montessori curriculum used? Part of the teacher being able to present those one-on-one lessons means that that teacher has trained and basically memorized their curriculum, because every single lesson on the shelf in a Montessori classroom represents something that has its own unique set of instructions and can meet many different needs at once. If a child is interested in a lesson, that teacher has to be prepared as a prepared adult to give that lesson and to know what to say and do to be able to meet that child's needs. So that curriculum has to be fresh in their mind for them to be able to serve that child. There is a actual curriculum, like in a binder, huge, thick albums that I have in our classroom, and I have seen our teachers use throughout all different levels. That is basically the guideline to all of those lessons. And so yes, there is a printed curriculum, but the teacher needs to be able to think quick on their feet and to be able to have all of those lesson preparations, lesson presentations prepared so that they can give that lesson to that child at any moment. It really just involves observation to know when is the right time to give a lesson. Right, question number 12. What are the disciplinary protocols? So along the lines of conscious discipline, there is a lot of resources that we use with that alone. We also use peaceful resolutions. In a lot of classrooms in Montessori, you will find something that's called the peace corner or the peace area, in which children can walk away from something that they might have been doing or something that's like inciting a lot of frustration or anger or whatever, and they can walk over to this area that's usually guided by a teacher or sometimes independently on their own. And it will involve being able to discuss what happened and taking turns and talking and coming up to these peaceful resolutions, and knowing that anything can really just be talked through, and to use communication versus anger or endangering somebody by throwing materials or something that escalates to a point in which like nobody really wants. And so these peaceful resolutions have an entire peace curriculum surrounding it that helps teachers and students resolve things understandably with each other. We're not trying to shame people for any feelings that they might have. We are all human beings and we all encounter the same feelings, so there really shouldn't be any shame involved in feeling a certain way. So teachers are usually very mindful with the way that they talk to children. I see that made you really upset. I saw that you walked away from that person because they said something that hurt you. I can see that you are feeling sad about what you said. It looks like you might have hurt that person's feelings. Do you want to talk about it, or do you need a moment to just breathe first? The children might also need some tools to be able to self-regulate. So there's a number of things that we can offer them to be able to get to this point. There could be some breathing. There could be actually some manipulative tools, some sensorial tools that will help them to just calm down. Sometimes they need to let out some energy that's pent up inside of them. So more along the disciplinary lines, also go into continuing to follow the child and like, what's really going on here? What are some tools and resources that this person might be able to use? Do they need to go outside? Do we need to take a walk together? Do we need to blow off some steam? So there are countless things that a child could use in a Montessori tool belt, not to mention how similar this might be to what adults go through. I mean, we go through the exact same things. And if we are able to use these tools to be able to process and work through things, I mean, just imagine, how it would be for a child. And they definitely need these resources and tools to be able to know that they have the power and the ability to self-regulate, and they can solve things between their peers and within themselves. In general, this leads to a more peaceful outlook on life, and when they become adults, hopefully, they will continue to take these concepts into their life and to be able to apply it to the world. I mean, can you imagine if we all just kind of were able to peacefully resolve things and communicate things and self-regulate and use all of these tools and resources? Come on. Okay, so some of the myths now that exist in Montessori. One myth is Montessori allows children to do whatever they want. So in that independent approach to education, and if anyone is closing their eyes and imagining children just running around a classroom, throwing things, jumping on things, yelling, screaming, trying to get whatever it is that they want, right? This is not the picture that is painted in reality in Montessori. At any given time, if you were able to go into an observation room or an observation window, which they do exist in Montessori schools, you'd be able to pop in and see a classroom that is basically full of children, but all of them have something that they are pretty much actively engaged in doing. Even if children are in passing between activities, there's usually a constant flow of the day. You'll most likely find the teacher sitting down somewhere on a child's level, maybe one adult that's walking around tone keeping or two. But for the most part, you're going to see a classroom that there's so many different dynamics happening at one time, with the general vibe of just peace and calm and busyness, but with purpose. And it is really a sight to see. If you have not observed a Montessori classroom or seen what a Montessori classroom looks like, I really invite you to either watch a video on like class footage of just children working, or go to your local Montessori school if you're really interested in this methodology, and just look into those classrooms at any given level, and you'll see that basically the vibe is the same. It's children who are engaged in purposeful work, that are all kind of busy doing something, and yet they still have this lighthearted social tone where they can interact with each other, work with each other, do things together. And you'd just be surprised to see what you see if you were able to observe a Montessori classroom. It's almost like you can't unsee what you saw, and you have to be able to take in, a fresh perspective of Montessori. Another myth is Montessori schools do not set children up for real life, because we paint this picture for them that all is well and peaceful within Montessori and nothing else exists outside of it, which is a myth, because really it is these skills that you need to learn in real life, and these are the things that you need to take with you as you move on in your life. So absolutely Montessori sets you up for the real life. It is the real life as far as the concepts that they are doing, taking care of themselves, being independent learners, looking after their peers, practicing grace and courtesy, speaking to adults at the same level that they are speaking to other children. Everyone is treated with mutual respect. I mean, this is like ideal world scenario kind of stuff, right? So not only does it set them up for the real world, but it sets them up for the ideal world. And that's something that we really strive as Montessorians to instill in our communities, is that respect, love, compassion, care, and kindness. Another myth that exists in Montessori is really only recommended for young ages. And this is not true. It might be recommended for them to start at a young age, and that's because the younger we are being introduced to something, the longer we can practice something for, the longer it becomes part of who we are and the way that we handle ourselves and ultimately behave in the world. And so I think it's recommended for them to start younger, but in no way is it recommended for them to just have it in their young years. Montessori is something that can be, oh my goodness, it can be used throughout their entire life. I would love to see Montessori colleges be able to provide education for adults and for human resources and common work areas to adapt Montessori principles, because we could definitely continue a Montessori world, and that would be something that would be so cool. But absolutely, children should be able to pursue Montessori at all ages. All right, so these are the questions and myths that we have covered thus far. This information is something that is not only enriching, but can definitely answer a lot of the Q&A that has been circulating around about Montessori. Please do give this video a like, and if you haven't already, do subscribe to this channel. Rise with Ellie. Discover more components to living a holistic lifestyle, parenting, education, home life, self-care, all sorts of things and beyond. Stay tuned for more videos. If you have any Montessori questions of your own, feel free to leave that below. Comment, hit a like. It really helps our channel out to be able to provide great services to everyone out there. Thank you all very much, and I'll see you next time.